Malcolm Withers, welcome to the program, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
A little baby podcast, which is doing pretty good, actually. And you're head of commercial at Pepper.
Yes.
One of our great partners. Pepper's a great organisation, for my money anyway. We are talking to brokers primarily, and the objective is for me to get people like you in front of the brokers and tell them about the product that you have, tell them about the organisation you work for, the product you have, because if they don't know what's out there to sell, then they can't do the act in the best interest of their clients. That's my view. And it's hard for them to keep up to date with stuff, particularly given COVID, because we haven't been able to get together for a long time. I know you guys got BDMs and that sort of stuff, and everyone's knocking on everyone's door, but this is a great opportunity to talk once in front of a whole lot of people. So maybe just for everybody, just tell us a little bit more about Pepper. Where's it up to? Who owns it? And you'll all be pretty impressed when you find out who owns it. And then tell us about your product.
Yeah. So, well, I guess from Pepper's perspective, we're now publicly listed, so it's pretty exciting to be a publicly listed company, and we did that during COVID. So
right. So KKR, who own Pepper or control Pepper, has relisted.
Yes,
listed Pepper on the exchange.
Yeah.
But they still have a share in.
They still have a stake in it Pepper. So I guess a lot of our who owns us is it's a lot of the brokers, I suppose, if they bought some shares and the YBR Group, we're good friends with YBR Group, and they've been good supporters of Pepper for many years. And my business is the commercial business, and we launched that business in 2019.
Commercial lending?
Yeah, commercial lending, and it's all around commercial mortgages, so it's secured commercial lending.
Yep.
And we launched that in 2019 because I suppose what Pepper's good at is we look to the marketplace where the gaps are and where the underserved customers may be. And we've seen a large portion of the Australian marketplace is underserved, but both in the brokers and also in the customers, in SME customers particularly. And so if we break that down into two parts, the underserved part of the brokers was that for far too long, commercial has been, I suppose, a stigma around it that it's too hard and it's too difficult. So we wanted to break that down.
When you say commercial, though, can you just explain to me, what do you mean? You mean lend me money to buy a commercial property, or do you mean, what do you mean by commercial?
Yeah, so it's lending against a commercial security.
Right.
So whether it's someone wanting to buy a shop, a office to run their business out of, or more and more lately, it's in the factory, warehouse, industrial space.
Yep.
So we play in the non-specialised commercial realm,
which means
we don't do lending against balance sheets. We don't lend against pubs. We don't lend against going concern businesses. So it's more your straightforward commercial lending. It's nice and simple, and we like to keep it simple and keep it that way because for the brokers, we wanted to play to the masses. So we wanted to take a commercial product to the broad market and make sure that commercial is available to every broker in Australia who wanted to add it to their business or integrate into commercial offering, and make it simple. It's really the core essence of what we did was how do we make commercial lending simple, and how do we make it easy for brokers who want to do commercial or have the capability to do commercial. So because for far too long, sat back and watched the banks, I suppose, block brokers out of lending in this asset class because of experience levels. Now, we go against grain on that because we believe that brokers should have access to it, providing you provide them with education, support, and a good BDM network that holds their hand and helps them write that commercial deal. So
like if I'm thinking, it's a bit like if I'm thinking about buying hamburgers, two or three places come to mind. What does a broker? What do you want to come into a broker's mind when a client comes in there and talks commercial? What does the broker got to have clear in his head? this is a commercial deal. I think Pepper. So what are the hallmarks or the characteristics of the deal or the client? What would be a typical hallmark? So is it, say, a client coming in and wanting to make an investment in a commercial property? Is that the typical hallmark?
So I think it starts before that. I've got a customer that's a self-employed customer that runs a business, that owns a company, that needs a place to work from, and how can I help them? And how can I help them beyond their home loan? So brokers are great at doing a customer's home loan and gathering all the information for a home loan. How can I apply that to their business space, and how can I suppose open up the offering and help this customer more? And it starts at that front. So certainly there's customers who invest in commercial and straight out investment, but we also want to be helping Australian businesses like the Australian families we help. So that the customer comes in that's self-employed, that the broker has the option and the tools available to offer that customer as many solutions as they can to their financial needs.
So will you be like, and I don't want to. So your competitors are, say, I don't know, for example, maybe Judo Bank and Latrobe, that type of thing. You're out there competing. You're in the market to get business from those organisations. A similar sort of thought process. Like, for example, I was just thinking myself then, like this building, which you're doing the podcast in, I own this building. It's a commercial building. Well, my family owns it and kids. And we've got some debt on it, not much, but with one of the traditional banks, because that's how long we've owned it, 4 million years. You guys, I don't think you were even in Australia when we first bought this property. But you would say to someone like my son, okay, you got a small debt, you want to refinance that. Would you look at let's say you want to refinance. Let's say you want to borrow, I don't know, $5 million on it. So say it's worth 20. I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue what it's worth. It could be worth. You would say, do you say to him, well, what are you using the money for? I mean, is it purpose analysis?
There's always the purpose.
Are there things you don't include?
Gambling
bills and things like that. Yeah.
So
usual shit.
We like to know what the use of the funds are for, if they're
Yep.
cashing out against a commercial property, and
Yep.
we ask that question, particularly of the broker to state a purpose. Right.
So let's say they're going to buy more property.
Yep.
That's
we do that a lot. So
Yeah.
it's accessing equity to buy a property,
Yep.
and maybe a property they haven't found yet. So it's then how do we structure that?
Sort of like a line of credit, sort of.
Yeah. So we settle. We do settlement. So in that customer where I've got one at the moment, they're cashing out against their available equity in a commercial property to go and buy some property. They don't know what they're going to buy yet.
Yep.
It's unknown. So we'll settle that loan. We'll set it up. We'll put it in place, and then when they find it, we draw it down. So it's more instantly they can compete in the market with cash in their pocket.
Yeah, so they go to the market with confidence.
Yeah.
So and where your interest rate's sitting, like, is it? I mean, obviously it's going to be risk based pricing, but sort of where you're sort of sitting. Where does a commercial property rate sit these days? I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah, so it's very competitive in the commercial space, like it is in the home loan space, and it's got more competitive with the cheaper access to funds that the banks have got and so forth. But our prices start at 3.75. So
Yep.
we offer commercial loans for full doc customers up to 75% and over 25-year terms, and we do that at 3.75.
So 25-year term, that's pretty good.
So it's very popular.
Is it reviewed annually or?
No. So we have a piece above $1 million. It's a performance review based upon the portfolio. So we can't say it's totally not reviewed, but
you're not asking them for every Tuesday to get another valuation and stuff like that. That's a punish.
We're not asking for full financials every year. We're not asking for fresh valuations and so forth.
Yeah.
The traditional pain of that. So we like to look at as we get out of the customer's ways to let them make and bake and create widgets, whatever they do in life, and we don't want one of the pain points be us to constantly come to them.
It's expensive too.
It's ridiculous.
It's a punish and it's expensive. It's an interruption in your business, and like you get. Like, I mean, I've been through it. My sons look after it now, but like, it's just a pain in the neck.
Yeah.
And especially when they say, "Oh, let's go and get a valuation." Well, there's a 0.5% fee straight up, just goes out the door, and of course the valuers, pretty much crap themselves these days about what value they're going to put on it, and you end up negotiating with the valuer and you're having a hard time. So, yeah, no, I think that's a great characteristic of your product, a great characteristic. Can I ask you? You're obviously this is doing well.
Business is great,
killing it. And can I ask you, if you were talking to a younger, not a young broker, but a youngish broker, or someone's been in it for a year or two and has got all these residential clients and is competing against every other of the 17,000 brokers that exist out there today, what have you seen out there in the marketplace that if your son was a broker, what would you say to your son about commercial? How would you tell them to start to learn? How would you teach them to learn about commercial and become proficient at it? And why would you tell them to go and do commercial? What's in it for them?
Yeah, first is it's about how does the needs of a customer differ between residential and commercial, and we're talking about SME clients. We're talking about the backbone of Australia, so they don't differ, right? So the requirements to do the loans are the same as what they are to do a home loan. So you've got all that information the same. So it's about how do you, providing the customer with more options and more ability, and you can support that customer for the life of the customer and become the relationship manager for that customer and take that power away from the banks of being the business banking relationship manager. So it's more about becoming a business banking broker than it is becoming a mortgage broker, and it's becoming more than that. But why commercial? Why should a broker look at commercial? It's not that hard.
Because they think it's hard, don't they?
They think it's hard, and you've got to break it down. So you look at it and go, what is the commercial made up of? You've got, and this is part of the problem, Mark, is that with the stigma in the market, commercial's hard because it's big. That's a small portion of the marketplace. So you've got your development loans, and you've got you've got your property, you've got your cash flow and invoice discount, debtor trade.
They're a bit more difficult.
So exactly. So it's a lot more difficult, and it's about understanding the capability. And once you understand that capability, say, I'm a broker, I do trust loans for self-employed customers day in, day out.
Trust estate loans. Trust.
Yep.
Someone's in a trust, yeah.
Someone in trust, and I do business loans with using residential property to help my self-employed customer. So the step across to commercial isn't that hard for that. So the capability zone sits there, is defined for them. So it's about making them understand that. And then equally, if you look at a YBR broker, it was daunting for them to write their first home. It was scary for them to write their first home loan, to make that step, to make that move into home loan. But 2 years, they're proficient at it. They're skilled at it, and they've got their client base. So it's about getting uncomfortable in a new area of business. So creating uncomfort until it becomes comfortable, and that's where we've come in heavily with the Pepper products. Is we help them with that. We provide the support, the training, the education, the training on product, but it goes beyond that. So on how to talk to a customer, how to ask the customer the questions.
And when do you hold these things, or is this
all year long?
All year long. So if I'm a broker and I hook up with you guys in commercial, you're going to be giving me notifications when the next seminar's on, etc., like the education programs. If I put a deal up to you, and you require cash flow analysis or something like that, and I can't do it. So where do I go from there?
Just contact your BDM.
Yep.
Every day, my BDMs are helping brokers with servicing. I've got a great BDM down in Melbourne, in Matt Taylor. He's at the moment doing a Teams webinar face to face with the brokers, screen sharing the screens and working out serviceability for a customer. So this is a broker who's come across their first commercial deal, and he's holding their hand, and that's a part of the process. Holding their hand is, helping them with the servicing, helping them with the structure, then getting all the paperwork together, and then we'll help you lodge the deal, and then you're away. And then after doing that a few times, the broker relies on you less and less. But it's a good feeling when you see a broker take off in commercial and successfully integrate into their business, and you're part of that journey.
And you make good quid out of it too.
Oh yeah, too right. So you're making a higher trail and higher upfront on average across the
higher
industry,
amount of money.
On a higher amount of money, and the good thing is it's on a stickier customer.
Yeah.
So it's
not that easy to move
It's
around.
about the customer. I always say to a broker, what's the cost of doing commercial, but what's the cost of not doing commercial?
Yeah.
Because that customer who has that commercial need, if they walk down the street and walk into a branch or walk into another broker's office, they don't care who's the one. Another
There's no
broker's got the
designer
home
dollars,
loan.
mate. There's no Armani dollars.
They're going to take it all. Right?
Money's money. They'll knock you off. They'll knock it. And that's a very good point, Malcolm. I think what's interesting about this is what I gained from this talking to you today is that brokers. I think all brokers should start to introduce themselves to commercial, and if you want to do that, go and talk to the guys over at Pepper. But there's a few reasons for it. One, it's a good earn. It's not as difficult as you think. What's really important though is you start to educate yourself and get better. I mean, you want to become a professional broker. A professional broker has got to be pretty much all things to all borrowers. Because, as Malcolm said, if you've got a residential client, it looks it's a nice, easy deal, but then all of a sudden they've got a commercial requirement, they go to someone else, that other person will take over that residential deal too. I will guarantee they'll knock that residential deal off you, and then you're toast. So, in terms of defensive mechanisms, but also in terms of looking after your client, but probably importantly, advancing yourself. Here's an organisation that's going to teach you what you need to know, and they're going to hold your hand, so to speak, that's teaching you, until you become proficient at it. And then the confidence you get from this, as well as the money you earn, but the confidence you get and the retention of your client you get, it's in the bank. Pardon the pun for a non-bank, but it's in the bank. It's really important. I think that's really important stuff. And it's good to see someone like Pepper, who are experts in this. They're always first to market in most of these things. So, and it's a big organisation. They're not shit talkers. I mean, they perform. They give you the outcomes. If your client as long as your client's not a till of the hun or, something like that, you go through the process with these guys, your client will be forever grateful from my point of view. And that's just good business. So I appreciate your time. Head of Commercial, Malcolm Withers from Pepper. We're not going to call them home loans. What do you call them? It's not
Pepper Money.
Pepper Money.
Yep.
That's it, Pepper Money. The big sign's up in North Sydney. Thanks very much, Malcolm.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Sweet.
Appreciate it.